Princess gets into that thing of people don't necessarily know what they want next until they see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that idea of belonging, there's definitely something there because we are in an age obsessed with identity.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think that Disney could lead the way in messaging that it's okay to be an individual. It's okay to just be you and not any of these other things.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the
And
princesses already do that. There, a lot of them are very much individuals, right? I mean, we've pointed out that Ariel and Belle are the nerds, and Mulan and Merida are the warrior princesses. They all have their own individuals. They can be their own individuals without identifying as being the wife, daughter, or whatever of another person. I think what could be, if I was, division vice president or something like that, I might not necessarily want the next Disney princess movie or princess movies, plural, to be similar to each other. I think what could be a good business decision, but who knows? Not that I ever run any. I've never run one of these big companies. Is that we have different types of princess movies that appeal to different types of audiences. Song, you have a certain type of princess movie you want to see, but maybe someone else has another type of princess movie they want to see. It could be a good idea to have different types of movies.
I'd love for them to take another crack at a Deja Thoris type princess.
I'll do it.
Has that happened at Disney?
Well, they made the John Carter movie, but there were mishaps. I enjoyed the movie, but I did like the fact that they leaned into the fact that she was interested in science. And, do that. Have it be on an alien planet. Go like halfway between the fantasy, because you can still do space opera, right? But
do Conan and Zenobia.
Yeah, like have it in this sort of, because then you can do the warrior princess and you can do the princess who's more of the diplomat, and then you can do the girly girl princesses. So like have more than one princess. I think that's what worked in Frozen is you had Anna, yeah, and then you had Elsa, and they were different. I think that if you did kind of a Edgar Rice Burroughs style, don't think too hard about the science, just enjoy the pretty flowing things in lighter gravity, you could do some interesting things that combined kind of everyone, like leave nobody behind. Don't pick one at any given time. Just have a movie we can do a movie with the Avengers where there's like 5 superheroes and only one's a woman. Why can't we do a movie where there's multiple princesses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they don't have to pick.
Frozen had 2.
Yeah.
So start.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah. But I do think that if you did a princess team so that they could all be different, and then you can have the white blonde that's going to keep all the easily rustled fanboys happy, the why fanboys get a vote on Disney fucking princesses. Did that annoy anybody else with The Little Mermaid that the usual suspects were chiming in on The Little Mermaid?
They don't care about The Little Mermaid. They just care about YouTube clickbait.
Yeah. To backtrack a bit, you're talking about a film or TV series with a princess team.
Yeah.
It's been done already, but not by Disney. It's Sailor Moon.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the Japanese have done this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
So many times. Yeah. Like, this is not, I mean, look at Final Fantasy VII. You've got Tifa, you've got Aerith, you've got Yuffie, take your pick. The Japanese know, like, keep your animation more simple, focus on your designs, give people a choice. And I do think that is the issue with the fixation on the main character in analysis. Often the main character is the you don't have very much wiggle room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that has to be your window into the world. It's the other cool characters. I mean, if you'd rather hang out with Rocket Raccoon or Drax or Star-Lord, you're going to want to hang out with Rocket and Drax, right? Like Star-Lord, there's really not much to him. And,
yeah,
well,
you know,
what people are looking for in their characters, but I see your point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the main character tends to be brown guy McNormal pants, right? He just like totally average in every way. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
But it's funny, boy bands are structured the same way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Every guy in the boy band is deliberately marketed to be a certain type. So there's the good guy. Every boy band has that slightly bad guy to appeal to the segment of the female audience that likes bad boys,
which
right?
Which is why the Harry Styles evolution just so tickles me, because he was supposed to be that clean cut center man, right? And the fact that he's wearing his auntie's pearls now, and a lot of women are like, he's more interesting now. And oh my God, really? I keep getting crap for that video where you say this, women hear that. I've had so many people ream me out in private for that video.
Whatever.
No, but I find that very, very interesting. But go ahead, Sog. I'll pick back up on this on why.
Really quick. Yeah. Derwin, is Liana roboting to you?
Starting to, about 30 to 45 seconds ago. Yeah.
God, this has been the episode of technical difficulties. Okay, so let's figure out where we want to land here, because I do like the speculation. I think that the Disney Princess brand, because it is such a juggernaut now, this is where we get into that idea of inclusion. And, what I was kind of joking about all of a sudden guys have opinions on Disney princesses. And that's where the whole thing becomes very emotional. And if you
don't want to hear girls' opinions on your superheroes or your Star Wars, leave my princesses alone.
And that's fair. Why aren't we allowed to have minority opinions on something? It's one thing to include, it's another thing to center. And I think we get the two concepts mixed up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
What now? In what context are we talking about now?
Well, like, for instance, the messaging to boys in The Princess and the Frog that was very heavy-handed, or what's his name? The guy nobody can stand in Frozen.
Kristoff.
I'm sure, because I know that's the character that was put in for little boys.
Yeah. So people, the way I see it, so someone thinks, oh yeah, that's too harsh on little boys or whatever. But then there's like 100 other animated films or TV shows aimed at that same audience that have a character not like that. So why are people complaining?
See, I'd love a Disney princess movie where the friend that is just, like the Olaf or the funny comic relief guy ends up with the princess at the end, because the handsome prince turns out to be only handsome and not much else. Because, the thing about really, being a very good looking guy like that traditionally takes a lot of work. Those muscles, that's a lot of time in the gym. That is dieting that makes you very cranky. Do you really want that in your life, or do you just want to look at it sometimes?
I mean, I think that's also part of why I like the idea of Elsa with a guard, because it's like, it makes sense for him to be physically fit.
Yeah, but there's physically fit. You look at the way men looked in movies. I watched what was it, Temple of Doom not long ago, and it's like, you know what, I actually prefer this to the sheets of muscle that we
there's
get
no
now.
8-pack, but it's
it's just fit. It's like, okay, that actually looks like a body. And I do think that we do have to, I know that people were a little down on I always forget her name in Encanto, the main
Mirabelle.
Mirabelle. It's too close to Merida. My God. but they're like, oh, she has glasses, she's quirky girl. It's like, you know what, that's fine, she is the quirky girl in that family. That made sense.
Yeah, no, it made sense. It's the thing is the quirky girl is kind of overdone. And
Oh, agreed.
the quirky girl has basically become the new name for not like other girls, but like changed just enough that people are still falling for it.
But okay,
But
so what do we this is where we'll close. What do we do? Because we've sort of hit all the buttons of diversity and inclusion and artistic, and none of us really being a big fan of just removing things, even though we understand the business realities of it. What do we do to tell these kind of romantic, girl-centered stories that men can enjoy too, and boys can enjoy too, in the climate of the minute a trailer drops, everyone is going to have opinions on the trailer. It's 90 seconds long and people think they can predict the entire movie based on the trailer. I don't know if anybody wants to start here or you want a minute to think about it.
I think you have to ignore that. Like, I know it sucks, but I feel like that's really the only way forward.
Yeah, just ignore it and just now. Are we talking films or books or both or any?
Everything, even video games. Like, I've been having all these conversations with people lately saying, we want the game companies to acknowledge us and our concerns. And then I go and I talk to creatives and they're like, no, just ignore it, which only convinces the people who want to be noticed that the creatives don't care. They're not understanding the problem with feeding the beast.
But I mean, there's also the issue of you can never satisfy anyone. You know, that's the thing about watching our author and reader circles where it's like, oh, writers, please stop writing this trope versus no, other readers love that. You're never going to be able to satisfy everyone. And I think that's the problem when it comes to a lot of these trailer reactions and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
this
It's like,
this just blew it all open in the most wonderful ways. Because
Yeah.
could you imagine if somebody said, writers, stop using the letter Q? That's what you're saying. Don't use a trope.
Yeah, you
pretty much.
You'll never please everyone, right?
Mhm.
But that's why we need to encourage a creatives and arts industry that has more participants or more creators in it, because
Yes.
because I've never seen the solution or the way forward, if you will, of trying to make a finite set of creators satisfy everybody. I've always seen the way forward as being expanding the number of creators so that so that everyone in the audience can find something that they like.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're in a climate right now where so few new ideas are actually getting greenlit. So instead, we just have to remake old ideas and force in, because it is forcing diversity in, instead of just creating new diverse stories.
Yeah.
That's a question of the costs of copyright. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, greenlit in terms of I guess major companies, right? Like major publishers or major film companies. But that's why I always say, and a friend of mine, another science fiction writer, once said this too. He 15 years ago, he said some of the most important science fiction stories that we're seeing published now might actually not be in the major publications. They could be in the smaller presses.
And right? I mean, I'm self-published, so obviously I chose not to go that route.
Right.
So, and
but
I think
you chose a route to get in.
Yeah. And I think ideally I would love to see more indie stuff take off. You know, that's my thing looking at Vivian Medrano and Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel is it's like, even if her stuff isn't exactly to my taste, I have great respect for what she's done.
Yeah.
Because
well, yeah, as a business person and as getting your IP into the public consciousness, oh my God, I think we can disagree with some of the creative choices or feel actively assaulted by them, and still go, you know, good for you. You got it made. You got people talking. That's my biggest concern, right?
she's one of those people I would love to sit down and have lunch with
Oh yeah.
and just ask her about how she got here.
I
So
just want to get a sense of her as a person, not as persona.
look, if for some reason I'm able to actually get the lunch, Liana, you're invited. You can come.
Awesome, sweet. But you know what I mean? Like, I do think
Oh
that
yeah.
this idea of, oh, don't offend me by being woke, or don't offend me by being sexist. Like, you can't ask an artist to say nothing with what they're
Mhm.
doing. I do think that the riskiness of some of those earlier Disney films, part of the reason Wish didn't work is I think it was too safe.
Yeah.
That's
And
interesting. Yeah.
it's kind of ironic that like going the traditional route with a romance would have been less safe in the current climate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Little Mermaid couldn't get made today. They'd have to put her in bike shorts and a big baggy top,
Pretty much.
even though she's a mermaid. It just at some point, and that's what I'm
Well, even
wondering about what they're doing with X-Men 97. They're taking some damn risks.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
And
think that, yeah, but
go ahead, Darren. Sorry.
this is, it's the corporation. Disney's an interesting corporation. It does, it'll do what it needs to do to make money. So right now their animation division is in a slump right now, but they're smart. They'll find a way to, if they think taking a risk will bring the revenue back, they will. And
Oh yeah.
still
Can
think like, and
can
still,
we really say that the animation division is in a slump though? I'm
well, that's
gonna
interesting.
devil's advocate here, because if you look at the output in the last few years, like, yeah, okay, the big spectacle film, the big tentpole Wish, yeah, it didn't do well, but Encanto was only 2 years ago.
Well, it's
Strange
interesting.
And
Strange
well, it's
World
also the
was
fact.
interesting. Elemental was good. Turning Red was a lot of fun. Soul was a wonderful little movie.
Well,
Well,
here's
I mean, things are also incredibly unpredictable because we're still dealing with the pandemic fallout.
yeah, we're dealing with the pandemic fallout. I mean, who was it? Who was the president? Who was the executive who said that our last film failed? We'll just go back to making um, uh, good films. Who was that? Someone at Disney said that.
Chapek?
Was it Chapek?
I think it was Bob Iger.
Oh,
Bob
it was
Iger.
Iger.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob Iger.
After the whole Wish thing, it was like, okay, we're going to focus on quality now. Which
right. So I'm basing, quality. Yeah. So I'm basing the idea that the animation division has gone into another slump on that comment. But is it really? I mean, like an accountant, I want to see the figures, right? And I haven't seen the figures yet. But we're also in a new age. You mentioned the pandemic, right? But the pandemic also opened up revenue sources that had previously been overlooked, like the streaming, for example, right? And Disney Plus, right? And there's animation division certainly making content for Disney Plus. So although Bob Iger seems to have hinted they were in a slump, I'm not so sure it really is one until we start seeing the figures.
I mean, Elemental made a ton of money internationally. It made like $496 million. That's
and that movie
good.
that movie got so cheated in marketing.
Yeah.
But also, that's another love story. It's a straight love story, and I don't mean heterosexual straight. I mean it's a love story start to finish.
Yeah. So it's I think we still have yet to see the figures on how profitable the animation division is, but if history repeats itself, whatever situation it's in right now, it usually is smart enough to figure out a way to get back to profitability or increased profitability.
I just think the expectations on a company like Disney in the public consciousness tend to be unrealistic. Like, now that we have this idea of them just making masterpiece after masterpiece, which was never so. They always made a movie that almost bankrupted the company, and then they made a bunch of talking animal movies to recoup costs.
Yeah, history is written by the victors.
Yeah. Well, every company is like that. You look at the whole history.
Oh, yeah.
If we're talking motion pictures, every company's like that. I mean, occasionally you get one that really fails disastrously, completely collapses, like United Artists after what's that Western, Heaven's Gate, right?
Oh, I forgot all about that. Holy cow.
Yeah. But occasionally you get one that completely collapses due to one movie. But motion picture companies, the large ones, very rarely collapse due to just one movie. United Artists was an exception over the whole 100-year plus history of the industry. It doesn't. No companies collapse just due to. No major companies collapse just because of one movie.
Right. Yeah.
So, no,
that comment about Wish, I was thinking, you know what? Was it really that bad for the animation division? He seemed to make the audience think it was, but we haven't seen the numbers.
I mean, part of it is just for the entirety of 2023, so many of the movies that were supposed to be big blockbusters didn't do great. But I mean, part of that is also just going to be how many big movies came out last year. Yeah. I remember watching a video that broke it down, and we had like 4 big sequels with like John Wick 4, Creed 3, and 2 others that all came out in the same month. Yeah. And you just cannot expect, especially if you're spending $250 million to make this movie, there's no way you can expect to get the return you need if you have 4 of these movies coming out in 1 month.
Yeah,
with the price of a ticket, it's just not possible.
Yeah, and wasn't 2023 also the year where there was that heavily marketed weekend with the Barbie and Oppenheimer opening the second?
Yeah. I think now there's the
actually it might have been 2022. I don't know. I listened to a video that broke it down.
Yeah, 2022 was a strange year because we were the first half of that year we were still trying to come out of the Omicron.
Yeah, well, I do think that's still affecting. I was gonna say that now, I'm humming and hawing about going to see Ghostbusters because is this a movie I want to risk death for? That's my question with every movie I go to now. Is this worth being sick for a month to go see? And I think that combined with, well, I gotta buy food, is a very expensive movie ticket worth this to me? Something's really got to be a cultural phenomenon to get people seeing it in theaters. And I think Wish just wasn't
it.
That. I had no, I mean, Song, you said how terrible it was. And if you're saying something's Disney
I still haven't even seen it.
Yeah, like
I'm just going off of everything I've heard. And
am I the only person in the world who liked Wish?
I haven't seen it.
Apparently.
Okay. I mean, it wasn't a masterpiece. I mean, it wasn't, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't Plan 9 from Outer Space.
I like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Well, I did like Plan 9 from Outer Space. I've cosplayed as a character from Plan 9.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, here's the thing. It's coming to Disney Plus soon. So obviously I'll sit down and watch it so I can properly form my own opinion.
But
will, for now.
Yeah. Well, it made half of what Elemental made. And I think part of it, it's not controversy that stops people from seeing things. It's a lack of interest. And I just think that was one that just maybe didn't come together. It happens.
Well, it's interesting. You're talking, you mentioned lack of interest.
Yeah.
I really couldn't tell from the marketing what Wish was about.
Exactly.
I mean, I went to see it anyway, just because, well, it's a Disney and I can go to I can go in the afternoons now.
Yeah.
Right? But if you look at the marketing, I really couldn't tell what this movie was about. Was it a romance? Was it a comedy? I knew there was going to be a song in it because every Disney animation film has a song in it now, right? But I really didn't know what it was about. So the marketing was it flopped. In fact, this is going to sound funny. I didn't realize until maybe about a quarter way through the film, that was really a sort of grand unified theory of where all Disney tropes come from. The marketing didn't make that obvious at all, right?
Yeah, I mean, I knew about that. I just didn't have a lot of interest in that premise. I like things staying not necessarily in their own world, but in their own corner of it.
Well,
And like, to be fair, if I still had access to a theater, I probably would have gone, just because it was a new IP. It's a Disney movie. I wanted to support it, but
Right.
I'm just not in a place in my life where I can easily get to a theater.
That's telling too. I mean, streaming did change things. It really is, what is worth going to the theater versus what is worth. And I think that's why everything's gotten ironically safe. And safe isn't gonna bring people out. The reason that people stopped going to the Marvel movies is they knew exactly what they were going to get every time. It wasn't that they were bad. They were just all very much the same,
Oh, yeah. It's
So I guess we're all in agreement that Disney has to go back to taking risks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean,
it's got to.
Go on.
People are going to be bored of seeing the same thing over and over again and drift away. So, but the only way to do that is to take a risk. So, but Disney, the company itself was founded on risks.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was founded after Walt Disney himself had to file bankruptcy.
Yeah, and Snow White itself was a very big risk. Whoever thought that people would pay money to see a full-length feature animated film?
Yeah, Walt Disney would not have been able to do what he did had Roy Disney not been his brother.
Oh yeah.
Just the significance of Roy in the growth of that company, I think, is really undervalued, because he made a lot of Walt's more reckless ideas work.
And here's the thing. Do you guys know what VeggieTales is?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a Christian animated show, not even a show, just it's movie
anthropomorphized vegetables.
And they tell little Christian stories, and it's cute. But I read the memoir from the guy who created it after the company went bankrupt. They ended up getting sold around, and anyway, but one thing he talked about was he wanted to be the Christian Disney, essentially. But one thing he talked about was how he never found his Roy, and he kept looking for people who could be. And when my mom read the book, she said, I think his wife was supposed to be it, but he never considered that, which, I mean, with Christian sex, possibly. But it's a lot of people do overlook. You have to have that creative and you have to have that practical.
Yeah.
If you want to build anything solid, you need both those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially since you can't start an animation company now by mortgaging your home.
No.
Yeah, you just can't. You need to do a bunch of things that don't work until, like, Vivzy Pop was drawing cartoons for a decade before she dropped that on the internet and said, hey, does somebody want to make this? It seems overnight, but she paid her dues.
No, she was doing a web comic first, and then just started. I really wish she hadn't deleted her Tumblr, which, if I had to guess, she probably deleted it in 2018 with the.
I don't know. I think deleting your Tumblr is the best thing anyone can do.
Well, yes, but
absolutely anyone.
Okay, but here's the thing: as not even just she's not on it anymore, but it's completely gone. As someone who wants to see how she got here, especially not even just from a lore point of view, essentially, but as an independent creative myself, I would love to be able to go back and see how the whole thing developed.
I get what you mean there. Yeah.
Yeah. With the blog completely gone, I can't see that, which part of why I'd love to have lunch with you.
Fair.
But,
all right. So thank you. We have come to the end of a very technically difficult Plagued, Two Women
Ah.
Talking with a Male Man. We got through it. Derwin Mak, author of the new Mecha Jesus and Other Stories, The Dragon and the Stars. Both of those are anthologies. The Moon Under Her Feet, Shrine of the Siren Stone. I think that's still my favorite, Shrine of the Siren Stone, that novel. But Derwin, thanks for coming on Two Women Talking. Where can people get Mecha Jesus? Where can people follow you on the greater internet?
Okay, so Mecha Jesus and Other Stories comes from Brain Lag Books and is also available on Amazon, where everyone gets their books these days. And in terms of following me, the website is derwinmaksf.com. So it's DERWINMAKSF.com. Right.
All right. So Song, you had technical difficulties off the top. Didn't get to say much. You have the final word. What's your final thought on Disney princesses?
Just let me have my pretty romances, please.
That might be a topic for the next. Just let me have my romance.
Romances as opposed to not pretty romances, but
Just let me have my girly romances.